Have you ever considered why Siddhartha was successful in his search for enlightenment while Govinda was not? I believe that it was the manner in which Siddhartha searched for enlightenment in contrast with Govinda to be the culprit. In Siddhartha's search for enlightenment, he doesn't follow what would be considered a typical path to enlightenment. He uses a trial and error approach, trying out new ways of life and abandoning them when he decides that the lifestyle he is living has done all it can to advance his pursuit of enlightenment. In contrast, Govinda becomes enamored with Gautama and dedicates his life to trying to emulate his teachings to attain enlightenment. In the end, Siddhartha's dynamic method of trial and error is successful, and Govinda's static method of following the teachings of Gautama is unsuccessful. While I didn't realize it at the time, I too used the trial and error approach utilized by Siddhartha to try and find my calling in sports. Sports has played a large role in shaping who I am, which is clear, or has become clear in my selection of sports management as my major. The business side of sports is my passion, but the actual participation in sports was something of a roller coaster for me, growing up. In Siddhartha's search for enlightenment, he begins as a young Brahmin still living with his parents when he decides that to attain what he desires, he must leave his home. Similarly, I began my sports career playing the chosen sport by my parents, baseball. However, just as Siddhartha's calling was not among the Brahmins, my calling in sports was not on the baseball field. So, the process of trial and error continued as I decided to try soccer. My stint in soccer was short-lived, just as Siddhartha's stint among the Samanas was relatively short-lived. I then tried my hand at basketball, and for a while, I believed that basketball was my calling. However, I became extremely ingrained in my ways, and it took me a while to realize that despite all the work I had put into basketball, it was no longer fun. Similarly, Siddhartha loses himself in the life of a rich man and one day decides to abandon it all. Finally, sick of putting so much stock into my sports performance as it was affecting my mental health, I picked up volleyball. In volleyball, there was no pressure to perform or anxiety because I was new. Just as I abandoned the pressures of basketball for a simpler sport, Siddhartha abandons his luxuries for a simple life as a ferryman, which brings him true happiness and enlightenment. I believe that the moral of both my story and Siddhartha's is this: trial and error is a daunting prospect because you will fail. However, by learning from your past failures, one can attain their version of the good life. In contrast, Govinda kept pushing and plodding along his chosen path to enlightenment for decades on end to no avail. I'd like to leave you with a quote to summarize the distinct methods of searching for enlightenment displayed by Siddhartha and Govinda. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Siddhartha realizes this and it changes his path when it stops serving his purpose, while Govinda expects different results when doing the same thing over and over again. I would encourage